hello to the audience.
Well, hello, everyone. I am the founder and CEO of Perfectly Holistic, and I'm basically a slave to my four cats.
Or
I'm
cat.
they run the house, and I just do what they want me to do. No, but in reality, though, I'm a cat mom at heart. I love holistic health. I love approaching ailments and whatever acute issues, even chronic issues. I love trying to dive into it and deal with it, fix things with the from the root cause using natural holistic approaches. That has served me well over the years, and I love doing that with cats. So that's what I do every day. And I also do a lot of work with energy healing and energetic balancing and things like that. So everything I do is energetic, and I work with energy and frequency. And it's fascinating. It really is fascinating.
And I forget we were talking before. Do you work with humans as well with the energy as well?
I do. I do. We certainly do.
I like the way you're like, I do. It's like, who do you prefer, the cats or the humans?
You know, I love them both because if we can support our cat parents or dog parents or who, if we can support the pet parent and help them understand what's going on in their world and help them become healthier and whatever, then they're in a better spot emotionally and spiritually to help their pets. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, what's really interesting is that our pets will mirror our conditions. So they're both going through similar things, and it's basically, it's called mirroring.
Yes,
And
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
yeah, it's called mirroring, and it's basically it's rooted in science. It's part of quantum entanglement, basically, where your energy fields are entangled with each other because you live in the same space, and so it can't help but cross over. And so whatever you're dealing with can affect them energetically, and vice versa. And then a lot of times, our pets come to us with conditions, and they might develop them first to show the pet parent, like, you need to, I'm trying to get your attention and show you because you have this problem. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating because the pet parent will end up going to the doctor and find out that they have the same problem that their pet has. So it's very interesting how that works. And so you heal one, you can heal both, whether that's emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever. But it's so interesting how our pets come to us with these little soul contracts, these
I love
agreements
that.
in their fur bodies, and we're like locked, paw and hand, and we're just going through this journey together. Whatever it is we're here to go through and learn and experience, they're here right along with us. So it's really cool.
So you say, so you have four cats, right?
Yeah.
And out of the four cats, what's their names?
Okay, I've got Gunner, who is 16, and Aylin is 10. And then Skylar and Breeze are almost 2. They'll be 2 next month.
Breeze, like the breeze?
Breeze like a breeze. She's a cool
All
breeze.
right.
Yep.
And so they're about 2 months. So out of your family there, your furry family, who's the most demanding?
Oh, you know, I would probably have to say Skylar. She is my little fire element, and she is very busy. Um, and she is a play monster. So when she gets bored, she's very vocal. Um, and she's so cute when when she wants attention or she wants me to do something and I have to figure out what it is she wants. She'll come up and she'll head bump my nose like all the time. I could be doing yoga practice. I could be, sitting here and she'll come up and she'll just start doing the head bump, and it's always what
Dude,
my nose.
you're like,
She's
mom,
trying to tell
mom,
me.
right?
Yeah, it's like she gives me little kisses, and I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? And she's, oh my gosh, she's a mess. Yeah. She's probably the most energetic of all of them.
And is Skylar Skylar. Is it Skylar again? Right?
Tyler.
And Bree. Are they sister and brother?
They're half sisters. They have
Oh,
the
they're half
same
sisters.
daddy,
Okay.
but different mama.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Um,
Super cute.
well, let's dive into our topic today, because I hear it a lot from the people that I talk to all the time, is why is my cat throwing up?
Yeah.
What causes that? I mean, I'm sure you hear this all the time because that's your world with cats. So they're probably, because, I always go back to, like, I remember with my cat when they were, would throw up, they would always like throw up this fur ball. And so that was the number one solution, or the reason why that we would always, why they were throwing up was because they had hairballs. But that's not necessarily true, is it?
No, no, that can be sometimes a reason, but that's often not the main reason why. I think it's a symptom, you know, but and in my experience, I've learned that there's reasons that people that they develop the hairballs, and it's not necessarily what you would think, but we can get to that another time. Um, it's more, it can be it can be because of emotional stress that they hold in their solar plexus chakra that stops that energy flow. And so if you've ever been like afraid of something and you've got the butterflies in your stomach and you might feel like you just can't eat right now because something is really upsetting to you, that energy is stuck. And so when they're over grooming a lot, they can collect all that fur and it kind of sits in their stomach right at the point where there's a little valve called the ileocecal valve that connects the stomach to the small intestines, and it has to pass through that. But that's right at the center of the solar plexus chakra. So if they're all stuck with anxiety or fear or upset about something, that energy gets stuck right there at that valve and the fur gets trapped. And so it can't pass and it comes up. So, yeah. So look at, if your cat has fur balls a lot, look at their emotional health. Look at what could be causing some emotional stress in their life. Um, and sometimes it can mix with food, but that's one of the other reasons why cats vomit a lot is food. There's several
Well,
reasons why it could be food.
well, you even like mentioned earlier, is like we opened up with the whole idea that the cat's mirroring you. So maybe you need to look at your stress and why your cat's
Yes.
stressed, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah. For those of you who are watching or catching this tonight, drop a comment and tell us why you think why you think your cat is throwing up. Because it
Yeah,
would
I
be
love that. Yeah,
interesting to kind of poll everybody and go, not what necessarily what, well, I guess it could be what your vet told you if that's, they have their opinions, but it would be interesting to see what people think is the reason why their cats throw up.
yeah. So we definitely encourage everybody that's on our live today, just drop a comment in the chat and we'll pull it up when we see it during a break of our conversation, and we'll address it, and we'll let Pam kind of dive into it deeply. So do people find you and come to you, or do you do Zoom calls with them? Do you do meetings over Zoom with them when they're asking these questions about their cats throwing up? How does this happen for you?
Well, all of the above. Sometimes I get emails from people who see my content on my website or a live or, a YouTube video or something, and they'll reach out with a question. A lot of times they'll book a free consultation. I do free consultations. So it's a 20-minute free phone call and we can talk about whatever, is going on with your cat. And I can give you some ideas based on my experience and things that I have learned from very smart integrative holistic vets and things that I have used in the past, and looking at possible root causes just to kind of help people think things through. Because sometimes, don't you feel like this, Michael? It's almost when you're having a conversation with someone and kind of putting it all on the table, the person you're talking with can help you get a more objective view Because when we're in our own echo chamber and we're full of self-doubt, and we're not sure, we're feeling overwhelmed or whatever with what could possibly be going on, it's hard to get that bird's eye view, right? So when you're sitting there having a conversation with someone about it, and you're talking through all these potential scenarios and potential causes, it gives you a chance to kind of step back as a pet parent and kind of think about what you're being asked. So you can just kind of start to see it from a different lens necessarily, instead of the one you've been looking through all the time. Because sometimes just having that outside perspective can trigger some things that you remember, like, oh yeah, we did that. I forgot we did that.
Right.
So it's helpful to bounce things off of somebody else. You know, when you're kind of stuck and struggling and not really a fan of some suggestions that maybe were given to you by a vet, and they just didn't sit right with you, and you're like, I just don't feel good about that. So let me just, and that's when people tend to look outside the box for more holistic approaches. And then that's how they end up finding me. Typically they're doing their research online, or they'll come across something that we recorded, or an article or something like that. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I just love what you do, because it's like, you probably see the same thing. And I see that we're starting to get some questions. So we'll pull up some questions.
Yeah.
My question for you is, like, do you see more, like, I'm seeing more and more all the time, people are wanting to go holistic. They want to treat their pet holistically instead of doing the Western medicine, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I've always had this thing where I've learned in my life is, like, with energy, we're talking about personal energy, human, our own energy and all that. And I always feel like, we have like this physical body, and then we have this spiritual body, whatever it might be. And those two need to be in alignment, all the time. When those are in alignment, your life is doing this. When something's not working the way you want it to, or something like that, we're out of alignment, and we really need to look at what's pulling us out. Just like you're saying, the bird's eye view, what's really going on in the big picture, and how do I actually visualize that and address it, so I can actually find myself back into alignment. So once again, you're probably seeing a lot of people coming saying, I want holistic.
I have seen this trajectory go like that in the last, you probably have too, in the last several years. I feel like the natural health industry for both people and pets is sitting at the top of the roller coaster, just starting to go over the edge, that first big drop. That's kind of where we are. And I think as we move, especially through this year and the coming couple of years, you're going to see so many people kind of wake up and go, oh, what I'm doing is not working. I need to do something different to get out of the situation, because I feel like a lot of people are stuck on a hamster wheel, and they're in and out of the vet's clinic with the same old problem, and it's not resolving itself. They're playing the whack-a-mole game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're doing this all the time, right? Yeah.
There's a symptom. They're just working with a hammer. It's like,
right. Here it is. This is what it is. No, it's,
And people are frustrated. And I've been there. I know it's very frustrating, because you're not getting results, and all they have to offer you is, do this really expensive testing. And I'm not saying don't do testing, but sometimes you can find another way to get the same answer, or they want to give you this expensive prescription diet food, which, if you've spent any time on my YouTube channel with the interviews, and like our friend Dr. Katie Woodley, oh my God, the prescription diets are like the worst. The worst. I would never feed my cat a prescription diet. Never.
Well, and it just kills me. Yeah, it just kills me. So we've got a couple, people answering what your question is. What do you think? Why cats are thrown up? And here you see too much cornmeal, chicken beaks, byproducts. Go ahead, address that question. What's your thought about that?
What she's talking about is all of the starches and the inappropriate ingredients. You'll find this mainly in the processed, like ultra processed pet foods. For example, all your dry kibbles. that's, hate to say it, guys, but it's probably anywhere from 35 to 60% carbohydrate. And cats just don't process that. Their bodies are it's like when they're eating it, their pancreas is the one that has to break it down, and they don't produce enough amylase genetically, biologically to digest carbohydrate starch because they're not wired for that. They're wired to digest proteins and fats. So when we're feeding them these, enormous amounts of starches in their diet, their pancreas, after a while, I mean, they can do it for a little while. And that's why people are they're going along just fine and think, oh, my cat eats kibble and I don't have any problems. Just wait. You, you may not see it yet, but eventually
5, 10 years down the line, right?
You will see it eventually. And if you could look at the inflammation that's progressing inside your cat's body, you would be shocked. Metabolic stress, like through the pancreas and things like that. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not going on, because it is. But that's a huge reason. It's just inappropriate food, and they just can't process starch. And so that's like, I used to feed my cats kibble years ago, so I don't judge anybody. I did it all wrong, like I said in our past show. But I remember, and you guys are probably going to laugh, because if you've done this, you've seen this too. Like when your cat throws up the kibble, it's like undigested and it's all one big long tube, right? It comes out just the way it went in. And you're like, gross. And it's like all the different colors, and it was not even broken down or digested. That's because their pancreas is like, what the hell you want me to do with this? I can't break this down. I can't even utilize that. My body doesn't know what to do with it. So that's what happens. They just throw it back up.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. When you see that food and you just see like their body just can't digest it, like you said. It's just
it's of zero use to them.
it's of zero, exactly. It's of zero use to them. So here's Amanda. I kind of feel Sebastian sometimes eats too fast, and then he throws shortly up after.
That can be a couple things. It can be food intolerance. So either the protein or look at the type of food that you're feeding. Is it dry? Is it moisture rich? Is it, whatever. If it's a species appropriate food, it could be that there's a food intolerance. So maybe chicken. Maybe he has an intolerance to chicken, and that's what's coming up. So make a note of what they're eating and what they're throwing up. And if you log that, if you start to journal that, you'll start to see there's some, you recognize some patterns. Yeah. You know what I mean? The other reason that can happen is because in some cases, if there is a multi-cat home and you're feeding them side by side, sometimes a cat who is a little bit more insecure will eat fast because he's nervous about the other one coming over to steal his food. And so, yes, it can cause a little bit of anxiety and stress. They don't need to be eating when they're stressed out. So if that's a situation, look and see what you can do to maybe feed them in separate areas so that this kitty can just maybe, or they're slow eaters and they're just constantly looking around because they're afraid someone's going to come over and push them out of the way and eat their food or whatever. So it can be an emotional response, an emotional trigger of some kind. I'm sure you've probably seen that as well, but that can be why. So we have to look at the emotional causes.
They're trying to protect their space, their food and all that. And you come in their space, it's like, that's a trigger for them. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Anxiety.
Yep. So Mace Crystal said basically the same thing, too fast. Once again, the food. Do you find when cats are eating, a lot of times their bowls like right in the kitchen or right in, next to the kitchen or something like that. Do you find that helpful for the pet, the cat itself, or is it more helpful for the owner because it's so convenient? Is it better to have their food in a total isolated place for them to be alone?
I think you have to look at the environment. So like in my home, it's just me. So I don't have a lot of hustle, bustle, and noise, and people coming in and out all the time. I don't have children, and I know in some homes when you have small children, you have noise and you have chaos, and you have stress, and it can just be an overall stressful environment. So I think if you were to look at the personality of your cat itself, would my cat do better if they are a little bit more skittish, to go feed them in another room that's quiet, away from all the noise and distraction, so they can sit and enjoy their food? So I would look at those like case by case. But it's, if you feel, I think if we just did this, if we looked at the situation from our cat's perspective, and if it helps, sit on the floor where you're feeding them and look around, and how would you feel if you were your cat right there, right then, wherever that is? Just be observant for a minute, and how much stress is going on? How much commotion? Is it quiet? Is it serene? Is there just, people running in? Is there screaming kids? Look at the environment and just ask yourself, would I want to eat right here with all of that going on? Or would I prefer to go have a nice quiet dinner somewhere else in another room? So I think, just, does that make sense? I mean, just,
I love that. No, it's like I've said that before with dogs too. It's like
yeah,
dogs and cats. We're always way up here and they're way down here. And so we're thinking like, oh, they're part of this space, but they're really not part of this space.
yeah,
They're in this space and that space. And so they've got all this going on. And I love that, because even like when we talk about training dogs, when they're puppies, it's like get down to their level and be eye to
mhm,
eye with them and say hi to them and be on their ground, so they understand that you're understanding the relationship they have with their area, their space. Yeah, I
yes,
agree with that.
yes. The other thing I was going to say is, think about this. If you are stressed out preparing their food, and let me put it another way, you're worried about them, and you're
Yeah.
like holding your breath, are they going to eat, are they going to eat? And you're just, that energy is put into their food, and you're
Yes.
just like, it's all that negative, stressful, anxiety energy that you're just worried as you're fixing or whatever. And so then what do? We put it down, and the cat looks at it and go, what's wrong with it? It's
They're like,
like,
it's
there's
vibrating the
like,
wrong
oh,
way.
there's a lot of bad energy around this. What's wrong with that? I don't know that I want to eat that. And then it makes our anxiety level just go, we're like, oh, no, we're not eating it. So it gets worse. So I think we just have to look at it from the point of energy. Like, what are we putting,
Yeah.
what kind of energy are we putting into it? What's the energy in their environment? And that's where I feel like it's helpful just to kind of take a step back and be the observer, just step back and just be the observer. Just see, what does this environment feel like right now? And how is my cat reacting? Look at how your cat's behaving. Are they kind of hiding off in another area, just kind of watching, like, is it safe to come out now? Yeah. I know I'm kind of hungry, but I don't know if I want to go in there. Or, if there's just a lot of people around, and they're kind of getting underfoot, maybe that's not a good place to feed them, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I,
and I love that you keep talking about the energy, and that's what you're all about, is the energy. And some people are like, oh, it's hocus pocus, but it's not hocus pocus. It
oh,
really, it's the vibration that's around us. I'm a
yep.
real sensitive person, and I pick up on people's energy all the time, and it does affect me sometimes. So I can only imagine how my cat or my dog's going to feel if someone's walking in with that really high anxiety energy. They're going to pick up on it, and you'll see a lot of times they run away instead of address or saying hi to the person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is another real interesting thing to think about if you're still not quite convinced about the whole energy thing. Have you ever walked into a room where two people were arguing, and you just kind of walked in, you're like, "Oh, it's you could just feel
Feel it.
you
Yep.
can feel it, like you walked in at a bad time, you're like, I should probably go, you know, versus, or like when two people are arguing and you walk in on the argument, it is just rife with negativity, and you can just, ooh, and it's awkward, like we're the bystander and we're feeling very awkward at the moment. I feel like I want to just leave. Um, Versus you walk in and everyone's like on a birthday party or something, or a festive occasion, a happy celebration, and it's positive and it's joy, it's a totally different feeling, right? That's the same way you can look at energy, and just as basic as that. Like, how is the overall energy right now? Did you come home from having a really hard day? Are you going through a really tough time? Like I would describe, you guys remember the cartoon Peanuts, of course, right? That's our age
Right.
group. Aging
Right.
myself. Dating myself, Peanuts. Do you remember the character Pigpen?
Oh my
Who
God,
always
I
used
talk
to
about
run
him a lot.
around, and
Yep.
there's like this dust storm that followed him around. That
Yep.
is a very perfect depiction of how energy follows us. So we can
Yeah.
have good, happy energy all the time, or we can have really negative, you know, bad attitude, anger, fear, whatever. Think of Pigpen.
Well,
That is a great depiction.
I actually talk about him when I talk, because like I talk a lot about the alignment, being in alignment, your physical, your spiritual, being in alignment. And pets are normally in alignment all the time. They're just running around, but when they do come into that energy field, they do go,
Yeah.
what did I just enter? So
They're
yeah,
so
I love that.
sensitive. I mean, our pets are so sensitive to energy, more than because they're just more. I think they're just more tuned in to the energies and the frequencies than we are a lot of times. Being pets,
Yeah, I
they're
would think
very
so too.
spiritual.
Because they're very spiritual, and it's their way of communication too is feeling that energy and how they're going to react in a situation and all that.
Absolutely.
So we have Isles here with my cat Tuffy, IBD. What do you think about that?
Well, this is what I always tell people. Why does your vet call it IBD? Like, IBD is a label. It's not a root cause. Just remember that. Um, I love teaching people how to look at things differently instead of labeling everything. I just like, that's just a label. So peel it back and go, why is there IBD symptoms? It could be everything we've talked about up until now. It could be toxins in the body, the toxins in the food, toxins from household chemicals that build up. That could be toxins from vaccines. It can be toxins from flea and tick medications. So we have to look at the toxic burden that contributes to those kinds of issues. Typically, a lot of times, though, it's inappropriate diet and stress that, like, emotional stress can imprint on food over time, and the body starts to recognize that food as something negative or bad, and so then they become more intolerant of that food, that particular protein, for example, and their pancreas can get very, very inflamed. When you have sluggish liver and gallbladder and the pancreas, those three organs work together a lot in digestion. So if something is stagnant in one of those areas, it can affect the digestive process. So we have to look at that. So even over vaccination can contribute to things like IBD symptoms. So there's a lot of different reasons why. That's where I think it's fun to start peeling back all the layers and look at all the potential reasons. So if you wanted to have a very interesting, spend some, 20, 30 minutes doing some online research, pull up some articles on, what causes IBD, and look at holistic vets articles and look at your typical conventional veterinary articles and see how they kind of line up and how they don't line up, because they don't always share the same opinion. But just go through all of those potential causes and just start eliminating. Oh, my cat hasn't done, we haven't had that. We haven't had that. Oh, but we have had this. So then you start to identify potential root causes, and then you can start to eliminate things like, okay, well, we can remove that. We need to do some detoxification, and we need to rebalance some things. We need some gut healing, leaky gut protocols and things like that. We got to bring the body back into balance. So
for people that are not familiar, you just mentioned something that I've heard a lot: leaky gut. What is leaky gut?
that is a great question. So I'm going to build you a visual. So Pretend this is the lining of your intestines, okay? And your immune system and your gut share the same real estate in the body. So, ideally, if you have a healthy intestinal lining, the food that's going through the intestines, the body is very smart and it knows what to pull out and absorb into the bloodstream by going through. It's like it has it lets certain things in, and it prevents other things
Yeah,
from
kind of
coming
sort.
out, right?
Yeah.
So it's an intelligence there. It knows what
Yeah.
can let in and what not to let in. So that's an ideal healthy situation. But when you have a leaky gut, you have things like environmental toxins, chemicals, heavy metals, medications, steroids, things like that. And those kinds of toxins start to like clip away at that intestinal lining, and then these little tight junctions that are normally tight start to open up. Okay, and so things that wouldn't normally cross or be allowed to cross through into the bloodstream start to cross into the bloodstream. And when that happens, the immune system has a reaction, and it starts to send out little messengers and attacking those things that are in the bloodstream that should not be there. And that's how you get autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
When the body starts attacking itself, because basically it's like, this is a foreign invader. It's not meant to be here. Why is it here? Let's everybody, rush over there and attack it. And it creates this inflammatory response in the body. So that's what leaky gut is. So there are wonderful ways to heal and seal those tight junctions again, because until you do, the things are, foods, toxins, drugs, whatever it might be, and chemicals just continue to go through, and it actually, the condition gets worse and worse and worse over time.
Yeah. I've heard that so many. One of the things you said something. I wanted to acknowledge these little eyes I see on your shirt that keep popping up over the screen here.
You recognize that shirt?
I know that guy, right? There's Mr. Pico. Yay. Yay. I know I don't have my Robertson on today. I was running today. So here you see D is saying too much meal, chicken breaks and all that. But once again, what do you think about this? Because her question's kind of like giving me a question in a sense. Like with dogs, speaking with Ryan, we would talk about their poop and the firmness of their poop. Is it fluffy? Is it firm and all that? And if it's really fluffy with a dog, they're really just bypassing all that grain and all that stuff, and they're really not getting that much nutrition out of it. Do you find that with cats as well? Do you see that with, like, do they have that same, can you do the poop test, we call it?
Well, with cats, what I have noticed is that when they are able to absorb the nutrients from the food that they're eating, their poops become very small and they don't smell, especially with raw food diets. Because if you're feeding a processed pet food like kibble, I remember the poop smelled horrible and it was huge. Like, it was huge. You're like, how does my cat even have that big of a poop when they can't even eat that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like, where did that come from?
Where did that come from, right? So how much are they actually absorbing? So all I know is that it tends to be smaller and it doesn't smell as bad. The cleaner their food, the fresher, the less processed. That's what I see. And the poop should be just a normal. It shouldn't be, super, super dark or super, super white. It should just look like normal brown, solid poops.
Yeah, I'm like, kind of like taupey, kind of, almost, right?
Depending on the color of the protein. Yeah,
right.
What the food color is. If it's a lighter, like a whiter meat, then it's going to be lighter. If it's a darker red meat, it's going to be a little darker. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to go back to Tuffy, who was 14 years with a IBD. She's thinking here. Let me pull up her question again. Here, her comment here. She's possibly small cell. What do you think about this?
I would go back and I would think about what you could do to heal the gut. Start with like gut sealing, gut healing supplements. There's wonderful things out there. Book a call with me. We can go over that in more detail. But then figure out why. Like if you can address the diet, do the diet. And then look at supplementation. Look at ways to, like, there's some great supplements that actually reduce inflammation in the gut lining, which is great. I would start with that. You know what I'm saying? And just if your cat is in a good place and you're not having a lot of negative side effects of whatever he's going through, you might be able to do some detoxification. But I would just want to make sure that nutritionally he's okay, like he's eating well and he's not having super diarrhea and vomiting all the time and things like that. But
Right.
and even if there is some kind of small cell lymphoma there, like some cats can live for years with cancer.
Yeah.
If
They do.
They do. So like not all the time, but
Right.
if you can address and get them on a good diet and get the inflammation in the gut calmed down without steroids, because that just exacerbates the whole toxicity and the gut lining issues and everything. You might get an extra couple years. You might, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't.
Sometimes they die from other reasons, but they die with cancer, not because of cancer. So,
Right.
and it's just every cat's different. So I would
Yeah.
say treat the cat, not the numbers. You know what I mean? That's what
Right,
it
right.
means.
And you keep talking about this, and we use this term all the time, is get to the root of the cause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the most important thing. It's like, just like what you were describing just then, it's like you're going through all these stages. You really want to get to the root of the cause and see if you can find the root of the cause and work backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's
definitely.
where you're going to, that it gives you more direction as to where to go and what to address. Like, for example, if your cat has had vaccine after vaccine after vaccine every year because that's what you thought you were supposed to do. Hello, that was me. So no judgment. And and then now your cat's 10 or 12 years old and they're starting to have these gut issues and immune issues and chronic disease processes in areas, and you're like, my cat's been so healthy all his life, so you thought. If you could look under the skin, you would have seen a different story.
Look in the hood, right?
You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to find, even if it was 10 years ago, some of that stuff, that stuff doesn't leave the body just because you don't give it anymore. It stays in the tissues. It contributes to toxic load. Sometimes it can go to the brain. Like heavy metals are stored in the bone, they're stored in the brain, they're stored in the small intestines. So what can we do to get those out of the body? What can we do to support the liver, which is essential to detoxification? If you want to clean up your body, make sure your liver is healthy. Same for your pets. So look at ways you can improve organ function overall and clean house. Like how many years, right. Just like us, if you've ever done a cleanse, I recommend at least once a year, you do a really good cleanse and do a parasite cleanse, do a colon cleanse, maybe some heavy metals. We're exposed to stuff all the time we don't even know about that impact us. And everybody has parasites. Let me just tell you right now.
They're running around right now.
They may be small. They may not be, causing a problem right now, but eventually there's enough of them, they will. So if you're treat it just like that, do some detoxification on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every week, but maybe once a quarter or twice a year, for your pets. Just if you're not really big into supplements and they, you don't really want to do regular stuff, just make it a point to be aware, like several times a year, go through some really good liver support supplements and some detox using one of my favorites is by Vengeance, the Venzio product, the Ripcord, the motherboard. Their whole system is awesome. for helping to remove toxins out of the body. If you've had specific vaccines, there are homeopathic remedies that can help address those specific vaccines really, really well, and stop the adverse effects from the vaccine itself. So again, it's based on whatever the cause is. But doing those little things like cleaning up the diet and regular detoxification and liver support, and just what you can do to boost the immune system and deter, inflammation in the body, that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. And, I just want to say real quick, everybody that's in our room right now and who comes and views our room afterwards, you can schedule. Do you have a calendar on your website that they could schedule? How does that work for you? So, because this is why we're here, you guys, is like, let's give your pet the best health possible. And that's why I bring all these guests in, so that we can actually learn what they're doing, learn something that we don't know, because we all, growing up as kids, we had pets, and we learned to treat them the way we treated them, and it's like, and feed them the way we fed them, and now we're like seeing that there's all these different options and different things modalities that we can be doing out there, and we have these special people in the world, like we have here with Pam. It's like, and she offers this free consultation. We do the same thing with our formulas. We offer a free consultation because we want to know how your pet's doing. We'd rather you like reach out to us first and just visit with us first, and then let's talk about what formulas actually work for you. So explain, how do they get to you?
Well, on the website purrrfectlyholistic.com, there's a little button that says book a consultation. You just click that button and it will take you to my page to book a consultation, and you can go to the calendar and you can pick a date and a time that's open, and you'll get a confirmation sent, and I will reach out to you for that appointment. So easy.
Beautiful.
And we either do phone or Zoom,
Yep. And there's her website right on the screen right now, you guys.
Thank
it's in
you. Yes.
in the chat. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one that I was looking at here. I wanted to go back down here that I was looking at here. She had this question here. Tell me about this comment here. What do you think about this?
Alga casacera. I'm not familiar with whatever that is. I'm familiar. I know who Dr. Tobias is. She says, my cat won't eat raw bones, so I've been giving him alga calcara.
I'm glad I gave that to you.
Yeah. It looks like it's some kind of a calcium, maybe an algae calcium combo supplement or whatever. And you know what? Here's the thing. Your cat doesn't have to actually eat raw bones. But if you buy a commercially made diet that might have 5% of bone in it, which is fine. But your cat doesn't have to eat a diet with bone in it. That you can, if you're making your cat's diet homemade, then eggshell calcium would be an option, especially if your cat has kidney issues or older cats. If you're trying to minimize the amount of phosphorus. So, yeah, I'm not familiar with that specific product, but again, I always tell people, you want to know why you're using a supplement, and you want to know, like, for a specific purpose, for a specific time, unless it is like a necessary support, like if your cat has heart disease, or you know what I'm saying? So if there's it's a genetic thing that needs support like the rest of its life, absolutely.
Well, and I see too, what I've seen too is where pet parents will get onto a supplement, and once they get on it, they almost don't remember, like, let's just do this for a little while. They continue on with it, and actually creates an adverse effect because it's building up, let's say, the calcium way too much inside their system. Right?
Yeah, or the liver just remember the liver and the kidneys have to still process all of those supplements, even though they might be great, but it's still adding a stress and a burden on those organs. So we don't want to do it if we don't have to, if it's not necessary, right? She had a question about constipation, or concern about constipation. Here's the thing. If your cat is eating a raw diet and it has too much bone in it, it can cause constipation. But if it is in the right proportion, so 5% or less, it should be perfectly fine, because remember, bones have they can provide sources of minerals and nutrients. So that's why they're added to raw diet formulations when possible. So it just depends. There's, in some cases, if it's too much bone, like if it's not balanced right, then yeah, you might have to cut it back if you're doing the diet yourself. And in some cases, like in raw diets, you've probably seen this too, Michael, there's just not a lot, there's not any fiber, or there's not enough fiber.
Yeah,
And
Yep,
if you're concerned about constipation, or if your cat's having constipation, please make sure you add a source of fiber like cooked pumpkin or squash, and we're talking like a quarter teaspoon, a half a
tiny bit,
teaspoon.
right?
It's a tiny bit. We're not putting a bunch of vegetables in the bowl. Okay, it's
Someone
really,
brings in a big pumpkin
yeah,
here.
no,
Eat
no.
that.
We're talking tiny amounts. Psyllium husk is another one. Coconut, like freeze-dried coconut chips. MCT oil can provide a source. There's, pureed vegetables like broccoli sprouts or cooked mushrooms that are minced really fine. That's a great fiber source, and it's an immune modulator, and there's so many benefits. But just think tiny amounts, but their microbiome, and they're, for motility reasons, they need fiber. So that can help a lot, especially in older cats.
Here's a question I just saw here real quick. It's, hard food kibble contains high sodium levels, which is bad for male cats. Male cats form stones that can't pass. Yes, we've heard this before, right? What's your thought about all this, about how to
Well,
maybe avoid this, right?
here's the thing. Any dry food diet is terrible for urinary health and kidney health in any cat. So if you want to avoid that, feed them a species appropriate diet, take them off all dry food, at least give them canned food, maybe gently cooked. Raw be great. If you can do some of that or a combination of, that would be great. But yeah, the components of the dry food are very inflammatory. And guess where it likes to go be inflamed is in the bladder. And if that pH gets out of balance, if it is too high, yes, you can cause problems. And if it's too acidic, it can cause problems. So it needs to be in that sweet spot. That's where you don't have crystals or stones. So that's why if you are feeding a species appropriate diet, it helps to alleviate that in most cases. And there's a few cases where cats have other issues with minerals that contribute to stones or crystals and things like that. But for the most part, if you can just take away the dry food, that's a biggie. It really is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Amanda's back. So what do you think about this?
Okay. I do grazing, bowl of kibble, and fresh for dinner. Any suggestions to change that routine if I were to change fresh or dinner? Okay, this is what I learned from Dr. Karen Becker. And if you're not familiar with who she is, go look her up. She's amazing. She is probably the world's most beloved, integrative, proactive wellness veterinarian out there. Cats are not herbivores, so biologically they are not grazers. So it's best to not leave food out all day. So pick up the all-day buffets, pick up the dry food, because remember, dry food doesn't serve them. It's not providing a benefit for them. So pick up the all-day buffet, and yes, your cats will hate you for about 2 weeks, but they'll get used to it. And put them on a meal schedule. So if you feed them twice a day, do a breakfast, do a dinner. If you want to feed them 3 small meals a day, do a breakfast, a late afternoon, and before bed. But they need to have that downtime where they're metabolically resting and not constantly digesting. So in the wild, cats will go hunt, catch, kill, eat, sleep. Okay. They're resting, they're fasting, and then they get up again and they go hunt, catch, kill, eat, sleep. And sometimes they'll go for hours, if not a day or two in the wild, because it all depends on what they can catch. Okay. So that is really metabolically the best way to feed cats is not the all day buffet. So pick it up. They don't need to be eating all the time. We have trained them because we worry that, oh, they're going to starve. No, they're not going to starve. It's
Yeah.
really good for them to have a long break between meals.
Yeah,
So,
it's actually, yeah,
yeah,
it's really important for
yeah,
them to
it
have
really
that
is.
break. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Um, so I just wanted to touch. So we've got you for an hour today, right?
Oh, I think we were going to go an hour and a half, right?
Beautiful. Okay,
Yeah,
I just
whatever.
wanted to check.
I'm
Okay.
game. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm game.
good. Okay, because we've got a few more questions here, and
No,
I
go
want to
for it.
also get back to our question at hand is what about throwing up? Um, so let's see, we're here. Let me hide that one here. And then let's see this one here. We already did that. Okay. Let's see this one here. So I do raw with
The carnivore
carnivore.
chicken. Carnivore is, I think it is a brand. I think it's a Canadian brand, and I think it's a dry food. Again, I'm not a fan of dry food, y'all. Um, they do so much better on wet food, even if it's canned food. So just remember, we have to think long term. If we want to promote longevity, we need to feed them the species appropriate diet. And you can throw out freeze dried treats as a snack if they're just climbing the walls and you're in train and they need something. Just give them a couple treats, not a bowl full of kibble to go to, as a whatever, as an option. Just learn to identify the stuff in their food and look on the label and see, is there corn, wheat, is there soy in there, is there peas, legumes, lentils, quinoa, barley, oats, potatoes. I could go on and on. If it's a starch, they don't need it. It's not biologically needed for them, and they can't really use it. So pet food companies use those to make a kibble or to make the food stick together so it can go through the extruder process and come out as cute little pebbles. Okay. That's why they do that. They have to have something to stick it all together. So it's not a biological need for them to eat that. It's more
Yeah,
for us.
and what Pam's saying, you guys, is like, do your research. Actually, if
Yeah.
you've never really looked into how kibble's being made and the process of how it's being made, I invite you to dive into that world and really look at it because I bet you by the time you get through it, you won't be feeding kibble ever again. And it's not that,
Mhm.
feeding them kibble is wrong. It's just what we grew up with. We just,
Yeah.
it was thrown at us. It stuck with us. We're like, okay, it's easy. Like
It's
Amanda was saying,
convenient.
I leave it down all day. Da, da, da. It's like, no, let's, our whole goal here is back to health for our pets.
Mhm.
Let's get our pets as healthy as possible because we want them to live as long as possible. We want them to be our companion for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And, the more you dive into their wellness of what they're eating, that's really going to reflect in their golden years and how they're going to be responding to life in general in their later years in life. You may not see anything going on with your pet, when they're a kitten just growing up to a medium sized age, but it's like all of a sudden, when they get to that older age, that's when all that bad stuff starts to catch up to them.
Yeah. Like I tell
And then
people, yeah, it's like it started a long time ago, not yesterday. You just saw the symptoms yesterday for the first time, or the vomiting started, and maybe it was every few weeks, and then it was more frequent and more frequent, or like diarrhea, same kind of thing. That is just a symptom of something. It's a warning sign. Think of it like
yeah,
the check engine light on that comes on in your car. It's like, hello, something's off. You need to go check it out and get it fixed. It's just a sign that something is wrong and you need to address it before it becomes a chronic severe problem like IBD and things like that, cancer. I love what Maggie says here. She
I
does the
know,
Dr.
right?
Emoto prayer. I love it. Dr. Emoto is an amazing, amazing man. Yeah, bless their food. It again, you're just putting the energy into that food. Anything, the more positive we can get, the better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you would like that one a lot.
Yep.
like right here, okay, coming back to Amanda here, I wish I would have had this knowledge for my Toby before we lost him. You know what? That's why we're here. That's why
Yeah.
we're here today, is to be able to share this information with you guys and be able to show you different ways and better ways to actually, give the nutrition that your pet needs, that they're not getting from the kibble. And it's like, and I didn't know this until I had Ryan on my show one day, and all of a sudden Ryan was telling me about kibble and the puffery and all the ingredients. I mean, look at the back of
Yeah.
your, especially if and sometimes it's the dollar amount that people are like looking at. Oh, it's less expensive, but you have to think about the long term, like we're talking about. Is, yeah, maybe less expensive right now, but what are you going to be paying when they get into their golden years, when
Yeah.
all these chemicals and all these metal byproducts and all this stuff that's inside of kibble that we don't know starts to catch up to them. So it's like really balancing that, that idea in your head of like, where do I want to invest my money? Do I want to invest it now, or do I want to invest it later?
Yeah. Amanda, my heart goes out to you. I lost 3 cats to kidney disease before I threw the bag of kibble in the trash. Those hard lessons, and after losing the first or the second one, I can't remember, and I was feeding dry food exclusively because that's what my parents did, so I thought that's what I should do. It's like it's just what you learn from how you grew up, and or whatever. You go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, I'll just buy it here, it's here. But I knew better. By the third one, I already knew that I should have been feeding fresh or wet food. And I was to the point where I was still doing the mostly dry and some wet and whatever. And I knew better, and I still did it, and lost a third cat. I was like, I'm not making this mistake again. So, but I feel like that's what those are those little nuggets, those beautiful lessons that we can take from all the things we used to do wrong, that we can just start learning from and be mindful of, and just go, okay, I won't do that next time on with my next pets. And you just continue learning a little bit more. Like, you might learn more about diet, but then a year or two goes by, you start to learn more about other issues because you have a cat that has another issue that you haven't had before. So guess what? That's an opportunity to learn about that condition or that disease process or whatever it is. Look at it as like little nuggets of education that you can just keep learning from. And our cats are here to teach us on that journey, and they don't mind. They see it as their role in our soul contracts that we share. We're here to go through this life together, and it's about experiencing things and about learning things, and we're doing it on the same path, and they have their role to play and we have ours. And it's a beautiful synergistic experience, and we have to let go of guilt and go, you know what? Okay, lesson learned. I'm not going to do that again. It can hurt.
Yeah.
But
It
we
hurts,
learn
yeah.
more from the pain, right? We don't
Yeah.
learn as much from the easy, happy times. We learn from the sorrow and the sad and the big mistakes that we make in life, and whatever that might be. But that's where we learn the most, right?
Yeah. I was when talking to Ryan one time, he was talking about a study they did years ago about kibble and basically home cooked food for dogs, and they took 7 labs and just fed them kibble their whole life, and then the other 7 labs they did raw foods, fresh foods, all different types of food and no kibble.
Yeah.
And towards the end of their life, the 7 that were fed kibble were getting cancer and getting cancer and getting cancer, and the other 7 lived a really long life, and it just shows you, so yeah. So, I had a question for you in regards to, Amanda, you said steroids. Steroids are awful. That's like horrible for our pets. Do you ever practice? Like, I've seen, we went to a meditation class here, and people were bringing their dogs, and they were doing meditation for dogs. Do you ever do anything like that with your cats?
In fact, yes, every morning I get up and I meditate. And this morning I had 3 cats sitting on my lap, and I took a picture.
Oh, cute.
And
Okay.
they're just like, they're all laying on my legs, and we're all in the dark, and I just, because it was so cute. But they absolutely love that energy. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're drawn to it, right?
Yeah. They get up like, because I go from the bedroom to the living room so I can make myself sit up and on the sofa, and I have the ottoman in front of me. My legs are stretched out. And so, yeah, at least one, if not two, every morning will follow me in there. And sometimes I have all four of them on there. But yeah, they love
Beautiful,
that.
beautiful. Do you understand? Is there a way to test to see if we can catch issues?
Yes, there's some really, really good diagnostics, some like at home testing kits that you can order, send in the sample, and mail it off to the company. Um, there are, let me think. Okay, so VDI Labs has a bunch of different test kits that you can order from their website. You sign up, make an account, and you can go through and see all the different kinds of testing that they can do. And they can send it to you. They can send it to your vet too. And you can work as a team and figure out, okay, this is what it says. It's very cutting edge. There's also one called, there's a company called Innovative Pet Labs, IPL. They have some really cool tests for cats and dogs, but they have some cat specific diagnostic cat tests now. One is a
Mm-hmm.
comprehensive gut health test for cats, and I can't remember the other two. But check out theirs. And then there's also some cool tests. Like I think you send in a stool sample for those. Okay. And then there's also bioenergetic testing now. So things like saliva and hair tissue testing that you can order the kits online. Um, and I sell some of these through my shop if you want to take a look and see what's on there. But you can do sensitivity testing, so it looks for foods and environmental sensitivities and things like that. Yukari is one, and then another one is bioenergetics, and they have it for people too. So there's Pet Medella is the name of the testing kit for pets. And then I just went blank. Hold on. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. So I don't tell you, so I don't want to lie. Da, da,
Well,
da,
when
da.
you're looking for it, I'm going to just mention this. I have this one YouTube on my channel, The Pet's Journey, you guys, and it's dog and cat DNA. There's a lady that I met. Her
Oh, yeah.
name's Lisa, and I think she's in Seattle, and she used to do DNA genetic testing for autistic kids. And then
Cool.
when she came to the end of that career, she's like, well, if we're doing this for humans, why aren't we doing this for pets? And she
Yeah,
actually created a lab that you can actually do DNA testing with her. And
that's cool.
it's called Cat and Dog DNA. It's on my channel, The Pet's Journey. And what they do is they can actually look at all these different markers, and they can actually let you know what these markers mean and what to expect in the future, and how, and if you know that they have like eye conditions that are genetically they're prone
They
to,
just
that
supposed to.
you can actually keep
Mhm.
you keep focus on it and actually change their diet, do more appointments with an eye doctor or whatever to help curb that issue in the future. So yeah, definitely, I love that.
Yeah, there is. I was thinking it's CBH energetics for the people. If you want to do the whole body scan with the hair and saliva, then the Pet Medella has sensitivity. They'll just find what your pet's sensitive to. They have a remedy scan. So if you just want to get just it's like just tell me what to give them. You send in the samples, and they send you remedies that match whatever issues are going on. Or you can do a full scan where you can see everything like environmental toxins, vaccines, heavy metals, parasites, foods, pollens, trees, weeds, pathogens. It's very, very detailed, but it's very cool to be able to just look at this and see, oh my gosh, this is it's very helpful to kind of figure out energetically what is contributing to the imbalance in the body.
Yep.
And then, of course, you might be familiar with the animal biome that does the gut health test that checks the microbiome to see if it's in balance, if it's out of balance, and that sort of thing. So there's just a lot of new things that have come onto the market, and vets don't necessarily know all these brands, so they're rather new. So it takes time to get this information in front of all these, conventional people.
Well, and that's why I love visiting with people like yourself that's holistic, because you're more apt to know about all these different options that are out there. And usually when I talk to a vet, when they go to school, they learn, and then they go out of school and they go into a clinic, and they're in that clinic from there on out. And maybe they do some refresher courses here, refresher courses there, but they don't really have that opportunity to dive into what's really available to us. And we're talking about pets here, and you mentioned humans too. You guys, this is not, we're hoping that we're bringing this information to you, not just for your pets too, is that for yourself. Feed yourself the right nutrition. If your diet's not right, take a look at what you're feeding yourself, because that energy is, going through you to your pet. So, it starts at the root of the cause, remember. And then right here, Amanda put up her calendar. You can copy that. That's in the description there. Let's see what else we have. Oh, Amanda, it's cute. She's sitting here. She's like, aha, I'm afraid to change. Of course you're afraid to change, but it's okay to change, Amanda.
Well, okay, this is what I tell people. You have to understand that if you don't do something differently, you're going to keep getting the same results you're getting. So in order to change, you don't have to make 10 changes all at once. Pick one thing. Start with one change. So if that is picking up the all-day buffet, pick up the all-day buffet. And if you need to add a little bit of a kibble topper to their wet food at dinner, well, that's okay. It's not forever, it's temporary. But if you wanted to just look at your circumstances and ask yourself, okay, what is one thing that I can do differently? Can I replace one meal with better food? One meal per week, two meals per week. What can you change? Can you, and you could also look at like this. What do I need to stop doing? Maybe I need to stop doing all the flea treatments, because there's no fleas in the winter where you are, I don't know why. Well, I know why vets recommend that, because it's money.
Right. Yeah, it's all money. Yeah.
But we never stop to question that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and how many vets out there, I'm not here to bash all the vets, but there are vets that actually want indoor cats who don't go outside and don't get exposed to fleas, using flea treatment year round. I'm like,
yeah, and I feel for those vets too, because sometimes they're stuck in a situation that they've got themselves into in an environment that the environment saying you have to prescribe this, you have to meet a quota. It's kind of like, I remember like my dad was an LAPD officer, and when they were, back when he was in the force, they had to meet a quota every day of like how many tickets they had to, procure, into the, when they got back in, they had to have their tickets booked, and so it's like that same mentality today. But a lot of these vets that I talk to today that are inside these clinics, they're just waiting for that moment to be able to break out and be independent, like Katie did. Like what Katie did. She was inside of a clinic and she finally said, I can't do this anymore. And she got out.
Yeah.
Just
remember, it's, as a pet parent, you don't have to say yes to everything they recommend. You can just say, no, we're going to skip that today. Thank you. Just say no.
Definitely.
And it's okay to say no to what they recommend. It just is. Speaking of.
Yeah, it's all, who we got down there? Which one do we have?
Aylin's coming to visit. Come here. Want to come say hi? Come here, Missy. She's my tiny little thing. Come here. Come here. Come here.
Well, you said 2 months old?
No, she's 10, but she's...
Oh, Aylin's 10, right, okay.
Skylar and Breeze will be 2 years next month, sorry.
Oh my God, look how beautiful.
Aylin. Look at that precious girl. Oh, you don't say, okay.
She's like, no, I don't know.
She's the one that she's the one that meditates every morning, aren't you? Yes, she does.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
She follows me in there. So yeah, she's a sweetheart. Oh,
You could see her. Yeah, I want to hold her. You know, her
When they
energy is
know
just it. Yeah,
she's,
look at her.
oh, baby girl. What's she doing?
Um, Amanda's sitting here. Cool. I hope I could find them in.
New
You can
Zealand?
find them anywhere, right?
Oh, the testing kits?
Yeah,
A lot of them will mail. I mean, they're mailed.
yeah,
So you can, like, even if they don't ship directly to your country, there's workarounds. If you, all you have to do is take a Q-tip, you know, and get a good saliva sample and snip off the top and get a fur sample. You can mail it to the, like, for example, Pet Medela, and they'll do the scan and your results are emailed. So, you know, if they
yeah.
can't
There's
ship you
workarounds.
a kit, yes, absolutely, there's workarounds. Yes.
Yeah, I have a lady right now in Australia that wants some of our formulas, and because Australia is like so strict about what comes into the country, it's hard to get
Yeah.
stuff in there. But there's workarounds, you know. There's,
Hmm.
you know, we could do dry formula, you know, whatever. So there are always workarounds. And then I just wanted to bring this up here because she always talks about what she's learned by battling her own cancer.
Yes, right.
Yeah, you know, and that's, you know, and that's why we're, once again, that's why we're here, is just to be able to share this information.
Hmm.
Let's jump back. So here I actually printed, okay, a list of what do you feel are the most common causes of cats throwing up?
Inappropriate diet. So your dry foods, because that's what they end up throwing up. Or food intolerances, like they can develop the food intolerance, so they throw up the same protein, you know. And I tell people whose cats are vomiting, I'll say the first thing you can try is change the diet. If it's dry, go to wet. If it's, if they're already on a wet food, change the protein, because maybe they've been eating chicken for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, if we're feeding them the same food over and over and over, and there's no diversity there, yes, they can actually develop intolerances to that food. So try changing the proteins. That's those are two biggies. The other thing that I see a lot is the anxiety and the fear response. So cats who are stressed, they throw up.
Yeah.
It's just that, like we were talking about earlier, that block in the solar plexus chakra, it just, that energy is not flowing, that food is not moving into the small intestines, it is getting stuck and it is coming back up. So that
Look,
can be why.
yeah, just looking at my list here that I have, that I was like looking at some questions I got from earlier from some people. A lot of it's around diet.
A lot
You
of
know,
it is.
the reason why a lot of them are thrown up is around diet, it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very common, especially in cats, because I feel like they are the most nutritionally abused pets out there, because we feed them inappropriate foods, you know, for a carnivore. Too many people are feeding them, you know, a diet that's 40+% starch. And in the wild, if you think about this, cats in the wild would probably get about 3 to 4 or 5%, um, you know, grasses or plant material or something like that, that they're, that's a very, very, very big difference between 3% and 45 to 60%, you know. So and the plant material that they do ingest, a lot of times it can be for fiber, or it's just they're ingesting it from the stomach contents of their prey, you know.
Right.
So or they know that they need, like, here's something really cool. Cats know what their bodies need. So if they're not feeling well, for example, they'll go seek out a certain kind of plant, or a flower, you know, a dandelion or whatever. If they feel like, cats in the wild, they need their liver supported somehow, they know what plants to go seek out, and they'll go nibble on that particular plant or that flower or that root or the grass or whatever it is to bring something into balance. They'll also even eat dirt or the clay, because they know that their body is deficient in a mineral or probiotics, and so, you know, that they can get in soil or whatever. They're very, very smart.
Well, you mentioned too, it's like, switch out their diet. Maybe they've been eating chicken for 15 years or 10 years or whatever it might be. Isn't it wise to switch out their diet all the time to give them different nutrition?
Yes, yes. Thank you for saying that, because so many times we get stuck in the routine of giving them one or two proteins. When you think about it, if you looked at the nutritional profile of every single protein in pet food, they're different. So by creating more diversity in the proteins that they eat, you're actually creating more diversity in their bodies too, in their gut, and that helps their microbiome, build different hormones and neurotransmitters and do different processes. It provides different nutrients. It provides different amounts of amino acids and oils and, things like that. So we have to remember to give them diversity as much as possible,
Yeah. Well, and like when you say that too, it's like we have like this formula here called, EAT. We call it EAT, and it's for digestion, GI, and all that, and it's to help the system from the root of the cause, from the gut. But it's important that you give them the right food.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with the root of the cause. What are you feeding them every single day? Yeah, you can, you can put them on a supplement that we have, but it's really like, let's focus on what the root of the cause is and bring them back to, because like I always say, when you're feeding them kibble, it's like, picture feeding, like, let's say you have a kid and you're going to school. What do? And after school, you drive them through McDonald's. If you're feeding your kid McDonald's every single day, that's the exact same thing you're doing with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're feeding them like a dish like McDonald's. And what's the nutrition really in McDonald's? And if you're feeding that every single day, the same food, think about how many nutritional things that they're missing out on from eating anything else.
Right. Right. Amanda also has a good point here. She says vets they'll say, be careful about changing your pet's food. Yes, if your pet is on a really low quality, high processed food diet, you want to make sure you transition slowly, because their gut doesn't have the amount of microbes to be able to change and digest. They've been doing chicken all this time, and now you're throwing a venison. They're like, whoa, what's venison? So you can have some loose stools and whatever. So just transition as long as their poop is good, you're good. Just go slow. If a cat has already been eating a good quality diet, and they're really healthy and they don't have those kinds of issues, I change their proteins all the time. They go from lamb and venison and beef and chicken and duck and turkey. I don't have to go slow, because they're so used to already having this rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're used to their gut's used to it. So if you
Yeah.
have a cat with a healthy gut, they can transition a lot easier. But if you don't, you got to go slower. And I would definitely use the digestive enzymes.
Yeah. Do you, having 4 cats, do you feed them separately? Do you feed them together, collectively?
Oh, you're going to laugh. Okay, so this one and Gunner, the older one, I've started feeding them in my closet. And and the kittens, they're not kittens, they're 2, but they eat in the kitchen. But and it's going to sound really funny, you're going to laugh, but I have spirit cats that visit quite often. And I think I saw an orb cross my screen a second ago. They're like my former cats that I had when they were around Aylin and Gunner specifically. So Hershey and Snow Bear and Spirit like to visit a lot. And they go after these guys. They must feel like they're being bombarded by orbs or something. But they get very upset, and they're very vocal and very fearful, because you can just see them. They're like, looking all around, and they've got the big eyeballs, and she starts running through the house like she's being chased or something. And so I feed them in my closet, because they don't get bothered in there. And their cat beds are in there that they like to sleep in. It's a pumpkin, and so they like to, burrow in there. And so it's a very calm happy, quiet, safe place. So that's where I started feeding them lately. Go figure. I just,
Well, I love that. And do you? One of my other questions I was going to say, do you do a lot with crystals?
I love crystals. I
Yeah, I was
have
going to grab mine
selenite.
were right there. I was like,
I have this one right here. I have a bunch in the other room. I love crystals. I love crystals. This is a
yeah,
quartz.
yeah.
No, they're fun. And I was have you ever brushed your cat or your pets with crystals? So like if they're having a really bad day and like she gets mad at the little girls, like if this was a rose quartz, I would just brush her with the rose quartz. And it's fascinating to watch the skin ripple. You don't have to touch it. They can feel that
Oh,
energy.
yeah,
And
it
it
just does
shifts.
this, right? Uh-huh. Yeah.
It just shifts. And she loves it. She just like, oh, she's like, oh, give me some more. Give me some more.
Give me more love.
You want brushing? You want brush? Huh? Oh, especially amethyst. She likes the amethyst a lot.
What about dealing with like scent? Do you do anything with scent? Like,
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you a couple of examples. I do. Have you ever heard of building an herb garden or making an herb garden with dried herbs?
no, but I love that. Yeah.
Okay, so my friend Julianne Hart at Naturally Cats is the one I learned this from. But basically, there are so many different types of herbs that provide a benefit to cats, whether it's for physical digestion support or emotional support because they're scared or they're sad or name the condition. There's a book on it. But you can an garden. Hi, Skylar. Like put a small towel out and put like a teaspoon. Like go into your pantry. You might have some herbs and just put a little, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon in little piles, like 4 to 6 different ones. And they have different properties, different ways to support the body, and let the cat self-select. It's called self-selection or zoopharmacognosy. And it's fascinating to watch because certain herbs can promote certain benefits depending on the condition that you're trying to deal with. Like for example, this one, this is chamomile,
Mm-hmm.
and this one is hops,
Mm-hmm.
flowers. Okay. And I was just experimenting with this a few weeks ago because my cats were so I think she was scared or something. Anyway, they support the root chakra or whatever. So you would just take a little bit and put a little pile, or I was just opening it like this and just offering
And
it
then
to them
if
to
it,
smell,
right. Uh-huh.
and if they are taking in the aromas, because those scents go up through the nose, through right to the blood brain barrier. It can cross into the brain, and that has an effect on the body, and it can provide a benefit. So just letting them smell something, including like essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to diffuse. You can literally just barely unscrew it and just offer it. Just like if she's right here, I would just hold it like right here and just watch their little nostrils. They start, doing this, and they'll blink and they'll yawn or they'll stretch. They're shifting their energy, and that's what they needed. So it's fascinating. If they don't have any reaction whatsoever, whatsoever, they didn't need that particular herb
Right.
or oil. But it's fascinating to watch them respond to something that is so helpful and shift whatever they're needing to shift. Oh, hey, Skylar, here's a little one. This is my little
Oh
busy
my God.
girl.
Look
This
at
is
her. Oh, she's
Skylar.
just
Hi,
so
sweet girl.
beautiful.
What you doing? Say hi. She's a mess. She's a mess. She's a mess. Yeah,
She's adorable.
she's
Um,
beautiful. Yeah.
I
So
just had a
yes, I do. I use herbs. I use oils sometimes. It just depends on what's going on. But to see them actually select, like the herb garden, um, to see her specifically one time, I placed it in the closet with like 2 or 3 that Julianne recommended for this particular session. She got out of the cat bed, went and sat on the herbs, facing one and sitting on another one. And she sat there for like 2 minutes, and then she got up and went back in her bed. She was done. And she was just so calm, and you could just see her just her whole demeanor shifted, and she had been very, very sad at the time. And so whatever we put down on the little towel was recommended for that particular condition, right?
Anxiety, right?
Sadness and, broken heart or whatever it is that was going on at the time. But to see her do that, I didn't know how she was going to react. I just said, okay, I'll just put this down. For her to climb out of her bed and go sit on it, I was just like,
well, she was attracted to the energy of it for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
And the scent, the smell that it provided, the terpenes or whatever they call that, is exactly what her body needed to shift that energy that she was feeling that was stuck or whatever. So it is a fascinating thing to play with for sure.
Talking about sniffing, I've had a couple of dog sniffers on my show where they train their dogs, either cadavers or bombs or drugs or something like that. And one of the fascinating things I learned was that a dog has over 300,000 receptors in their nostrils, and they can actually sniff one scent in one nostril and another scent in another nostril at the same time. And I was just like, wow. Because like we don't have that many. We have, like, compared to dogs, we don't. What's that like with cats? Do you know what the
200,000? I think that's what I heard. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it's a lot. It's a big number like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's crazy.
It's fascinating.
When you really think about it. When I learned, I had this one guy down in Florida that he was a cadaver dog, and he had a cadaver dog. And they would fly them all over the place, after a plane crash or if a kid's gone missing or something like that. And he said, Michael, he goes, it's just amazing how all of a sudden you'll be walking and all of a sudden my dog, she'll like look up at me and she'll like look at me and I know that look. And then all of a sudden she'll take off and, it could be like 100 yards or I don't know, the distance away. Then all of a sudden she'll just stop there and wait for me to get there. And sure enough, she found something. Yeah, it was pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating.
We're about to wrap up here. I just wanted to get back to our topic. So if your cat's thrown up all the time, what would be the remedy, would you say?
Number one, I would start changing the food because, most of the time it's food related. Add some digestive enzymes. There's a product called Catalyst by Feline Essential that I carry. It's fabulous. It's liquid. It doesn't taste bad. You just add it. It's like a quarter teaspoon. Add it to the food. It's fascinating. It's a great, great, great product. It helps cut down on the vomiting because it helps promote more, better absorption and breaking down the food and things like that. You could look at some gut support, like probably some toxin binders. There's ion gut support for pets, which is good. There's the Venzio by Vengeance. You could look at probiotics. Sometimes that can help. And then it doesn't always have to be a supplement. So if you wanted to look at just like superfood, raw goat's milk, raw goat's milk is great because it has all the benefits of the raw. It's unpasteurized and it has loads of different probiotics in there. And experiment.
Well, I know Katie, she swears by Manuka honey.
Okay.
She's like, oh my God, there's so many incredible properties inside of Manuka honey. She's like, it's the best. And I was like, and when I didn't know what Manuka honey was when I first met her, and she's like, she turned me on to it. Now I have like containers of it just sitting in my kitchen. Yeah.
I haven't tried that with cats. I know it's probably easier with dogs because dogs like everything. Cats are just like, especially sugar. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It'd be interesting to try, but I haven't done that for sure. But
I want to say it's so fascinating that you're here and what you're doing with Purrrfectly Holistic. and how you're like so inclusive of your cats, you know, and it just shows everybody in our audience that you can actually have a better relationship with your pets just by doing certain things and trying things out, and like these little herbs you're talking about, or
Mhm.
you know, it's like it's a whole nother world that you can embark on with your cat, and just bringing your cat to a better health, and just, you know, and just giving them the life they deserve, right?
Yeah. We just need to look at, again, if you look at things through the lens of your cat's eyes, it can be very, very different. Get on the floor, get on their level, look at the environment, look at the food. Think of it from, you know, a carnivore perspective. You know, just it changes everything, you know.
Yeah.
It really does. And energy is so important. It's just an important part of the mix. We just don't give it enough attention, I think.
Well, with that, everybody, I want to say thank you for being here. Um, give your cat some love tonight. You
Yes,
know,
definitely.
give them a special little treat, or you know, and don't be afraid to break away from kibble. You know, that's my favorite
Right.
thing. You know, don't be afraid to change their diet and throw some other nutritional values in
Real
there for
food.
their food. Yeah,
Mhm.
real food.
Put
Well,
some real
Pam,
food
thank
in
you
there.
so much. I look forward to
You're
next week with
welcome.
a new
Yeah.
topic, and we'll circle back around, everybody. So we're going to be doing this every Tuesday at this point at the same time. So look forward to
Yep.
seeing you guys here again. Thank you for being here, everybody. Amanda, thank you for
Thank
modern the room again, as you always do. I really, really appreciate it. Pam, you have a beautiful night.
I will. Y'all too. Thank you guys. We'll see you next
Namaste.
week.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.